Hello and welcome to 2 of 16 with James and Derek. And today we're continuing the series where we talked about the four functions of the ego. And today is the third one, child. And first I'd like to overview and tell a little story about all four. We have the hero, the parent, the child, and the inferior. So if you know your four functions, those are the rules. The hero is the dominant one, the one that you go to most. Parent is, it helps the hero. It's like a co-leader. Child is the thing that you do for relief. And the inferior is the thing that you are aware of, but it's not really a place that you're very confident with. Or, yes. And is the other relationships you can see is the hero and the inferior will be opposite directions of thinking. For example, for me as an INTP, I think logically to myself. The opposite of that is considering the feelings of other people. That's something I really, it feels like it gets in the way of introverted thinking. And if you also look at your parent and child, they have that relationship as well. Something else I want to point out, which has to do with this, is if you look at your first and third, they are in the direction of your preferred direction, which is introverted versus extroverted. So as an introvert, my first and third are introverted, and thus they feel more natural. And the second and fourth are extroverted, and I've been developing this theory that there are these two sides of us: the introverted side, first and third, and the extroverted side, second and fourth.
And just to be clear, you're saying the opposite then for extroverted people.
Yes.
So you're an INTP. ENTP would have the first and third as extroverted types or functions, and the second, fourth, introvert.
Yes. And I've been building like a theory about how this can lend to how these functions, like why these functions have these certain rules that they have. So with that being said, we can go right into the child. And
that was very Freudian.
Well, let me just add a leg onto that story, right? The child is known to be something that it's the third, which means it's like the third most aware. However, it is also known to be optimistic. It's optimistic and is also something you do for relief. However, and we will go into this as a second topic, it's also the reason why people go into loops. Could be, yes. So let us first get personal and talk about our own child functions. My child function is introverted sensing. And so when I am resting and I'm at home, which means I'm introverting, I will SI, which means I will seek comfort. I will seek routine. I will reminisce. And I will do the things that I know I like. So the same foods that I enjoy, like for a long time in my life, that was pizza. At the end of the day, I would just love to get a pizza, maybe a soda, and just like get that whenever I want to relax. That's my SI going again and again.
I think pizzas were inserted into the matrix for that reason. Like, there's no, I feel like there's almost no human that can say they don't like pizza. I think we're all programmed that way.
Yeah. But that is the place I go to. These kinds of pleasures, that's what I go to just relax. And it's not connected to TI. It's just the child me is like enjoying myself in sensory stuff.
I really wish I could say the same thing in the sense that, okay, so third function, INTJ, introverted feeling. just to put it in my own terms or terms that you may not have used, you have in a way like relaxed state, right? So I've done my NI, I've come up with a cool idea, and then I'm like, okay, let's do my extroverted thinking. I'm working, I'm at work, I come home. So it's like, yeah, when you're done working, when you're done doing something intense, for an introvert that's using an extroverted thing. When you've done an extroverted thing, you've used up your energy. It's time to recharge the batteries. So you're in relaxation mode. For me, I suppose that's introvert. Oh, no, not suppose. It is introverted feeling, which is where I would more inwardly focus on how I feel about. Usually, it's time for reflection for me. It's like, all right, well, how did you do today? Now, when you said it's optimistic, I wonder. Because sometimes maybe it's just I didn't do enough shadow work that day or week. It kind of will attack me at the same time. It's the same function, I believe. It could be T. The same function. It's like you didn't get. You're supposed to do 5 things today. You did 2. And this happens after I'm done. So I'm sitting there. I'm trying to relax. It's like, yeah, but I have this anxiety, I suppose you could call it, for not having finished enough stuff. So I don't know how I could call that optimistic. I'm not negating what you're saying. I'm just saying, I wonder what else is going on there, and that's something we'll touch base on later. But yeah, it's like, FI. What is that? It's my values. It's my ethics. It's my morals, how I view the world. But it's also the same function that allows me to empathize with other people. So this is where it's like it's not FE in the sense of like caring about how the group feels, but it certainly is I call it, or I think of it as like a more directed version of that. It's like a one-on-one type of thing. It's like, oh, I'm with James and I can tell by how I would feel in this situation how he might feel. So it's like selective empathy, or not selective. It's empathy as far as I can. It's like it's from my point of view. So I might be completely wrong. So that's kind of the thing there.
Yeah. Well, what I hear, or when I think of FI, what I think of is respect for the individual, which is I'm an individual. Like as an FI person, you respect yourself as an individual, and you expect everyone to respect you as an individual.
Yeah, and that's why it's very non-FE. That's 100%,
Yes.
like literally opposite of FE. So that's why I was saying it's like a mini version, but it's not, because like that the whole point of FE is to not be individualistic.
Yes. As FI, as FE, I look around and I don't really see individuals. I see group and how each person is contributing to the group feeling. So.
I made this gesture as if I was going to tag. I'm actually going on a completely different thing. It's like, but FI, like you're talking about relaxing and eating food or something. For me, it's like that's when I'll pick up a book and I'll read it, because that's what you do with books, I guess. And yeah, I'll just enjoy what's on the pages there, and that, because then I start to think of NIFI loops, but like that's not always a bad thing. That's where my imagination will kick in. So it's like I'm chilling out, I'm relaxing, I'm reading a book, and then it's like, oh man, and usually it's like, or let's say it's like a science fiction book or just something like whatever, and I just have a thought, and then I'll even put the book down and just start imagining something. So it's actually fascinating, because then the question is, am I doing FI at that moment, or am I doing NI? Well, I guess because it's cerebral, it's probably NI, but it's fascinating. The transition is almost seamless between the two for me. I wonder if that's the case for you. Do you have anything like that happening with TISI?
Oh, absolutely. And the more I learn about this, and the more I explore the different interactions, the more I see that these functions, they aren't really like discrete things. They actually they're like mixed. They're like seamless mixtures. Like if someone has TI but it's connected to SI, it's very different from TI connected to NI, which is the ISTP way of TI, right?
Yeah.
And so your NIFI, I think it colors your NI in a certain way.
Yeah, it does. It's like, actually, I don't have words yet to describe that.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to try, and I realized immediately I couldn't.
Yes. Well, I will say that my TI reasons through my experiences. Like if I haven't experienced something, then when I was younger, I would just say that that's not logical. I'm not gonna talk about it. That's
a bit stubborn.
Yeah. But now with access to NE, I now know that like, oh, I have no idea. I have to NE this in order to be able to logic about this at all. Um, anyways, SI for me is connected to TI in that way. I want to tell that story too, which is I talked about these two different sides of each person, and I view it almost like there's like inside your house and then outside your house, and inside your house there is your first and third, and so you know when you go home to rest, when you go inside your house to rest, there is like the main you, and then there is this child you that's there too. And when you're going home when you go home and just relax, you play with your child kind of. And so that's why when I go home and relax, I just do the same routine always to relax. Whereas for you,
Yeah, it's like this word is troublesome for me because I don't know that I ever relax. But I also just had a thought. You talked about come home, but like I work from home, so I TE in the same chair that I FI and NI in. I mean, SE is the only thing that happens everywhere and anywhere. Depending, I mean, if something loud happens while I'm working, obviously I'm going to kick into like, oh, what's going on here? I'm outside, in the kitchen, in public, not in public. I mean, it's like that's different. Oh, I don't know what I was saying. So yeah, like I don't know that I'm relaxing though, because I feel like I'm always kind of on.
yeah. So I would say relaxing is more of an SI word, but maybe I can say default mode. Like
I
like
would,
TE is like a
or
probably like a conscious thing that you have to move into, and then when you're not TEing, you do NIF.
right, but oh yeah, sure. Because I was gonna say NI is definitely a default. Like I'm, if I could be, I'd always be there. And FI is a bit of an annoyance sometimes, but at the same time, because like, namely because I realize that having such strong feelings and morals and that really brings out my ego, like, or I guess that's super ego. Where I'm like, I'm great because of this. That's FI too. But frankly, it's like I don't have to say it. Like I just feel it, and that's what gives me motivation to continue living my life. No, to continue just doing what I do. And so it's like, and I'm going to go down a lot of rabbit holes here. It's fascinating because it's introversion. Introversion is where we get our energy. So it only makes sense that while I'm imagining some ridiculous scenario while feeling great about myself, that I would feel recharged. I'm noticing that's when it's like I've plugged in whatever, and now the lithium battery is now being recharged. Whereas no matter how much I would like, yeah, it's like in TE is an exertion. SE is an exertion. Extroverted anything is an exertion. And what is fascinating to me about this is that sounds more natural to me, not just because I'm an introverted person, but like I feel like that's how humans should be. What's hard for me to fathom is how the hell does that work for an extroverted person? So like they're exerting energy, and that's somehow how they're getting energy, and like is that really how it works? And like when they're doing introverted things, do they just feel like, oh, my energy's just like leaking out? Like what does that feel like to them? And I'll never know. I think that's what makes it so fun, in a sense.
Well,
I'll never really truly know, and that's fascinating because it's almost, yeah, it's like, oh, I want to feel it. I want to know what that feels like.
yeah.
I
To
know it's a
speak
lot
to
of,
that.
okay, I hope you can actually.
Oh, I can speak to that, which I think. So, for example, us talking right now, this is energy, but because I'm speaking, I feel like I'm almost speaking from an introverted place right now, and so it doesn't really expend that much energy. So I feel almost energy is like energy is you can use the word spiritual, but what I mean by that is if it's connected to meaning, then it will not spend energy. And so I think for an introvert, when they extrovert, it doesn't feel as connected to their meaning as their introvert side, and so it expends energy. But for an extrovert, the meaning is in the extroverted world, and so when they introvert, it's like oh, I'm doing something that doesn't feel that real, and so they use energy.
I wonder if it's an INTJ thing or if it's me. I feel like I'm exerting energy. I feel like I'm using extroverted thinking to have this conversation.
Yes.
But at the same time, there are definitely moments where I'm using introverted intuition during the podcast. And frankly, it's probably any moment that I'm not talking.
Okay.
But not true. Then there's the moment where I was like, okay, I have to say something. So then it's like the TV turns on before I've started speaking because I'm formulating a sentence.
Mhm.
And so I wonder if I'm not expelling more energy than you are. Because I feel a bit on. Honestly, when I'm not home, if I'm not completely silent and by myself in like an echo chamber or whatever you call this thing, like, I feel like I'm exerting some sort of extroverted energy. There's also SE too, because like we're in public right now. Technically, there's people around, and so my SE probably switches on, whereas your FE is like goes as far as myself because I'm the only person in the room with you.
Yeah.
So if that were to even somehow, that's probably why it doesn't turn on as much with you in this situation, or wouldn't. Is because it's like, why? We're both doing all right. I don't look like I'm suffering.
Yeah.
I don't know. Again, I'm just, but I'm not negating what you're saying because I'm sure that if the situation were set up where I'm just like able to somehow just NIFI only, then yeah. But
I feel like when I NE, I don't really NE by talking.
That's also what I was going to ask you. I was like, I don't think you're having the same issue with NE right now that I'm having T at all.
Yeah.
Because you're not really doing it. So that's what I'm saying is like you could probably engage in this type of conversation, maybe something even deeper, probably would be better for you, and you could probably do it almost endlessly. Yeah, I couldn't. Is what I'm saying. So that's what's fascinating because that's what I'm saying is great because it would make no sense if all introverts were the same. Because I'm an introverted intuitive, I have so much of who I am in that imaginary world that it's impossible for me to also not expelling energy while I'm doing this with you. Like there's some kind of balance thing going on in there, and that's what I like. Yeah. It's, again, I'm thinking of like a game, like an RPG. It's like you have different stats, and so they come in handy. Like you could outdo me in a something, whereas I can I can do work longer than you can. Like when we did social things, if I may say, you got tired faster than I would. I'm also very tired, but I have this thing, like, I don't know if it's just because of practice, but like T allows me to, because I know, so I need to do it. I'm doing it. It's like, I'm doing something. There's a goal here. You don't have a goal. You're just like, oh, tired. Wasting too much energy.
Yeah. So, and I'll just go back to this idea that I believe the center of energy is actually meaning. It has nothing to do with the physical thing we do. There's a Nietzsche quote: "He who has a strong enough why can overcome any how." So if I'm doing something and it's meaningful to me, I can do it 1,000 times more than if something's not meaningful, and thus it's not meaningful for me to socialize with people more. It's meaningful for me to explore, so I can rest anytime I want. It's like if it's not exploring, then it suddenly has no meaning, and so when I'm tired, I should rest. But for you, perhaps there is a certain purpose for this.
Yeah, it has to be a purpose. It has nothing to do with the socializing. Because I was going to say, well, technically, if you were exploring what socializing is, then you could go out there and explore the socializing scene, and that would be less tiring than doing it just because you have purpose.
No, yes,
so exactly. It's all about the frame, I suppose.
Exactly. Which is why this is a bit. Which is why when you
shouldn't talk to an NI dom.
When you assign a T purpose to my exploration, it gets very like suddenly I'm like, oh, that sounds so heavy.
Yeah, and then you get tired. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, child function. We've done some exploring here about like as you may have we went through a few iterations of this because yes, when I tell it to you, the child, like, we want to be clear on talking about the child function. However, all of the functions really are like interacting all the time, and so in a way, it's more clear to me what the child function is when I understand how it interacts with everything else. However, this is the first time talking about this, so I'll try to stay focused about each one and tell you.
I will try, but I can't promise anything.
Yeah, that's all
As
good.
usual.
Yeah, I mean, we are intuitives. We are who we are. So we can work with that too. I'll work on the list. I have a list here of each child function. ISJ. So actually, ISFJ and IST. No, that's not right. IFJ. IFJ, INFJ, and ISFJ, they have the same child function, which is introverted thinking. And so as a big picture, the child function actually you can see it in two ways. One is as relief. You can think of that as kind of like the advantageous way. And then two is bypass, which is kind of, it can be a negative way because, or I'll speak through it. So relief is the IFJs, after they've done everything in their day or when they're relaxing, they can TI to just have fun. And so they might go and learn something. My brother, who is an ISFJ, he does crossword puzzles and he does Sudoku. Like that's like him like relaxing as an ISFJ. INFJs might also do the same thing. They might enjoy talking about MBTI to relax.
Only because we're talking about TI. What is the difference in feeling? Well, you wouldn't know. I'm just wondering, like, because I've never thought about this. TI Dom versus a TI child.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, they're not doing, like, a TI Dom wouldn't be doing Sudoku all day. So, yeah. Do you see what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
So it's fascinating to me that the same function can function in different settings and in a different, I guess, to a lesser extent, solving Sudoku puzzles and talking about MBTI is relaxing. And then I'm thinking, I can't think of any TI Dom. But a TI Dom, can you just very quickly explain?
I would love to dive into this.
What I'm saying.
I think the connection I hear is meaning. Once again, meaning. And so for an ISFJ and an INFJ, they don't draw meaning from TI. They don't draw meaning. Like, it's just when they're relaxing, they do TI just for fun. See, like you hear how there's no like life path there. It's just like something you kind of just do.
Where a TI Dom is like, this is what I meant for. This is why I'm here.
Yeah. Yeah. So for an ISFJ, like what they're meant for is like, I want to be the pillar of my family, SI, right? Like I want to be the pillar. I want to be reliable. I want to be there for people, SIFE. That's like who they want to be. INFJ is like, I want to lead people into like I want to help them see like who they can become. I want to grow them. Like this is ISFJ, INFJ. That's the meaning for them. And then when they go home, they do a Sudoku puzzle to like relax. You know what I mean?
I've grown some people that do Sudoku.
Yeah.
Nice.
However, there is the kind of negative side of the child function, which is in the end, INFJs and ISFJs are introverts by trade, and when they don't feel so prepared to take on the extroverted side of the world, they can retreat into the introverted side of themselves, where you can call it an NI-TI loop, where they overanalyze and they think through how people are acting around them, and they try and come up with theories about how people are, instead of doing the thing that would actually solve the extrovert problem of the relationships. They think the relationships are very important, right? Their second function is FE. And instead of going into FE and going out and resolving these issues with people, they go in and they rationalize and they overthink these things. This is like, so it's like self-soothing for a short-term relief, when the main thing you probably should do, the responsible thing to do, is to go into the parent function, right? So that's the idea of relief and bypass. Each of these have like a relief way of going about it, and then a bypass way of going about it.
Okay, so now that you've introduced those two terminologies, once again, what is a relief and what is a bypass? Because I don't know the connection is immediate.
Okay, so talking about ISFJ, relief is you go out and you're like this pillar of the world. You're serving people, you're helping them, and then you go home and you decompress with some Sudoku, right?
Okay, so the relief is appeasing your hero
Decompress.
function.
The relief is decompress. The relief
Compress,
is
and
like
then bypass.
bypass is instead of going into your parent function and solving your extroverted problems with it,
Mhm.
instead of going to FE, you TI about it.
Okay, so you bypass your second function.
You bypass your second function, and you stew, come up with theories about, oh, they're probably thinking this, they're probably thinking that.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. Instead of going out and being like, hey, what are you thinking? I would like to help you. Let us solve our problems. And like that's the FE responsible way. But you bypass and you stew by yourself.
Yep.
Next set of people is EFP. ENFP, ESFP, the child is extroverted thinking. And so this is the first example of an extrovert. Instead of, so the relief of TE is, getting stuff done, being efficient, taking action. They find joy in organizing chaos, taking charge and making decisions, and enjoying the outcomes. And so, like, once again, this is like a place of relief. It's like, oh, let me organize my desk, or let me go and go on a trip, or something like that, right?
Big difference between going on a trip and organizing one's desk.
Well,
Which one is more exciting?
Yeah. Well, it's
Man, I was like, I'm on the fence. And I was like, I'm gonna go on a trip to Spain. Oh man, I'm gonna go home and I'm gonna organize the hell out of my desk.
yeah.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, well, I mean, to them, a trip might be exciting because it's a chance to organize, oh, we're gonna go there. Let's plan out the 3 days and where we're gonna go, and
not
make
in the
schedules.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, they actually would. They would love that.
Frankly, I find that interesting because I thought the whole point was they don't want to plan. They just want to I feel so bogged down by what's going on here. I'm out. I'm going over there.
Well,
I'm not planning. I'm just buying a ticket. That was maybe a misinterpretation of the NFP.
No, well, I mean, they would still they would plan. They would plan for fun.
For fun. I see. Fascinating.
Now, how this can be a bypass is once again is ESFP and ENFP. There are personal issues like what they think is important and all that stuff, and then they bypass that by just doing more.
Mm-hmm.
Like for example, well, it's you can somewhat, I think you can somewhat relate to this, where instead of dealing with some kind of problem in their own, like what they think is important, they go out and they drink, they go clubbing or something.
Yeah, it's like just again bypass in order to just not have to do it. I mean, drinking, sure, I don't know, just do something fun without thinking, I guess would be the idea. Well,
Yeah.
why am I relating to that?
Because that's you can go there for your grip. So that's like ESFP, they do that to a lesser degree. They run away from like who they want to be by just like going out and doing stuff. And
Why do I feel like I'm not? I mean, I'll do that sometimes, but I don't know that it's very relieving. I end up going, why did I do this?
yeah, exactly. So that's the difference is for you, that's your grip.
Are you
Where,
talking
like-
about SE?
Yeah, SE.
Yeah, I did it last week. I
So
went
it's
to the
like-
mall and then I regretted it instantly.
Exactly. So in for you, it's like kind of like a last ditch, like oh, you feel really bad, and then you just like go on this rampage.
I will say, I'll do that, but I'll also do it because I'm like, you know what? My NI is like needing. I gotta freshen things up. So let's get some real life data. So it is purposeful sometimes,
Mhm.
or rather has a different purpose at times. But it
Yeah.
also is what you. Yeah, okay, I get it now. I get it, and it's like, well, it's just so random. I will just do it,
Yeah.
and it's like it's so like Derek, that's not you. I guess not.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That is funny.
And that's speaking to just like an unconscious imbalance. Like your SE just kind of just flares up.
Yeah.
Uh,
SE flare up.
yeah.
Can I go to the doctor and be like, what's wrong? It's like, your stomach hurts? No, I just had an SE flare up. I just have a bad case of SE and I just don't know how to get rid of it.
Yeah.
Not funny. Okay.
Well,
INTJs can't make jokes. And INTPs aren't good at laughing at IT jokes.
Okay. So we talk IFJ, TI child, relief and bypass, EFP, relief and bypass. Going to the ITJ, INTJ, and ISTJ. The relief is you feel deeply, and you attach meaning to your actions. So you take action.
That's
and
that
you
whole
reflect on-
detachment, aloof kind of situation. When I'm like just kind of at home, like I'm just like, it's weird because it's like, is he doing NI? Is he doing FI? It's hard to tell because they're both very silent. Sorry, not to cut you off, but like I've noticed that in ISTJs too. When they're done, they're done. Like they are just they're gone. Like they would just turn on Netflix until it's time to go back to work again.
Yep.
Or go to bed.
Yep. So, especially for ISTJs, you can think of this as like reflection time.
Yeah.
Like, oh, what did I do today? Oh, was that a good job? Good job is FI, right? Values, morals, bypass is when things get chaotic. Then you can retreat to FI, and so for an INTJ, you can go NIFI and just imagine the ideals of things, bypass. ISTJ can go SIFI and just retreat into what they think is like the morals, the ideals of the world.
I'd say FI is also hobby time.
Hobby time?
Yeah, I'll grab
a
model kit, Gundam model, and I'll just start building it. Yeah, that's actually FI. It's not TE at all, because it's like there's a purpose, but it's like this is what I like doing. Or playing a video game, maybe a better example.
That
kind of thing.
That makes sense. But as I talked about that, I was reminded of a certain dynamic that I've noticed, which is what I tend to think is the trigger that causes someone to retreat into their child is when something that's the fourth function is like too loud. So especially for an ISTJ, right? NE is their fourth function. So like things are changing too much, things are going too crazy. Then they don't, like, the responsible thing, which is really hard to do, is to just like take that on with TE, right? But no, but like what tends to happen right away is you retreat into your FI and you just kind of hide for a while.
Is that because for me it's probably those moments where I start complaining.
Yes.
Because FI is not all fun and games. It's like, I believe this. I'm seeing something with my SE that isn't that. I mean, that's not right, and I feel like I have to tell you about it, even though you didn't ask.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably when that happens.
Yeah. And this is also, I'm not demonizing it, right? I'm speaking to how like an introvert would naturally react introvertedly to this external.
So if you think about it, it's not me reacting to that person or their beliefs. It's just a reaction to an external thing that doesn't match with what's in here.
Yeah,
and it just happens to come out in complaints or just angered silence.
Yeah.
Or something of that nature.
Yeah.
And namely, when I'm in an extroverted situation, it's not likely to happen like while I'm watching TV or just sitting there, looking out the window.
Yeah.
That like bird made me angry. Shouldn't fly that way.
In a way, an extrovert, like as an introvert, an extrovert thing will be the irritant for how you think.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest irritant with when I'm around is TE. For you, the faster and the more I talk, the more it seems like I'm trying to get somewhere. The more you're like, shut up, quietly.
Yeah. Okay. Next here is ETP, ESTPs and ENTPs, they have FE child. And so what, as a relief, they will want to meet and engage with people, be like a host and help them feel good, take care of them. However, the bypass can be that instead of being responsible and logically thinking through things, they turn into people pleasers and like really want to like they look for, they jump past it and they look for ways to make people like them so that they don't have to think through things. ISP, NI child. And so ISPs, when they're by themselves, they have TI or FI at the top, and then they also NI imagine. They imagine their future, they explore, they daydream about the hidden meanings of things, they just have visions. And this can also be a bypass of their second function, which is SE, where instead of taking action about things, instead of getting practical, they retreat into more imagining. ESJ, any child. So primarily ESTJs and ESFJs are all about practically getting stuff done for certain goals. And then when they're done with that, they can get playful and they think about what ifs and they explore and they brainstorm. The bypass is, instead of reflecting on this introverted thing of SI, hold on. Yes, SI. Instead of reflecting, they just go into like actually just doing more and more instead of reflecting on their themselves.
Is that like, I'm picturing
SI
ESTJ like overworking their like subordinates?
Oh,
They're just not in a healthy situation. They're just like, I don't want to deal with this SI. Let's just keep pushing. Everybody, come on, let's go.
Yes. That can be the unhealthy side of this. And actually, I want to think more about what SI parent looks like, because I'm actually the reason why I'm having some issue explaining this is because like, what exactly are they bypassing when they just jump into any as a loop?
Yeah.
So that's an interesting thing to look into, because the notes here are also incorrect. And so I'll think more about that. Okay. INP SI child. SI as a relief is, after everything is done, INPs love to just relax and enjoy the things that they've always enjoyed. And for me, that is pizza and watching shows like Adventure Time and just like really just light like stuff with myself. That will be put into contrast with ENJ next. So relief, do stuff like that. Bypass is, instead of doing NE and like gaining new experiences, we just use our experiences and we reason through and we overthink everything instead of like trying to gain new stuff. We bypass NE with the past.
Mm-hmm. That's very fascinating.
Oh, gotcha. ENJ, SE child, is after, like, this is like work hard, play hard. After they've gotten all the work done that they want to get done, ENFJs and ENFJs, and ENTJs, they now want to go and just like play, dance, and drink, and like work hard, play hard. The bypass is, instead of thinking about what's important to them, or how to serve people. Hold on. Oh no, instead of thinking about where they're going, they just bypass that and just work really hard and take action.
I think
So-
any of the meetups we've met in ENTJ at, they must have been just doing that kind of thing, because like it's not a place you expect them to be. They're like, you know what? I'm just gonna enjoy. I'm gonna
Yeah.
drink. I'm gonna dance. I'm gonna play. Have a nice time.
Yep. That's them just like turning everything off and going to SE. Yep.
Fascinating.
So as a child, and I think we can actually really sum it up in what we talked about today, which is that it is something that's very natural to us, but it is not a place of meaning so much. It's very natural and fun to go to. It doesn't use that much effort, but it's not the source of meaning. It's just something we do for fun.
Yeah, and I like that it's I don't know what I'm saying. I like that it's anything. I like knowing more about the other types and how they handle that. It's really fascinating to look at extroverts, the idea of the bypass, which I've never really thought about. Like I'm aware of for myself NIFI loops and how those become what they are. Jeez. How those happen, and I didn't think of it as a bypass, and that for me actually makes more sense. I'm just saying, like, it just kind of stitches things together a little more.
Yeah, and if you've ever heard the trope of like the midlife crisis, I would say is the ESTJ, maybe more ENTJ crisis, which is they bypass NI so much, and then one day they realize, oh, this is not. I never thought about where I was going.
Yeah, they're in a direction, and they're like, oh my god, I'm not even going the right way.
Yeah.
Like, where am I?
Yeah. So
I've got all this stuff done, but yet it wasn't maybe according to plan.
Yeah, well, I'm not a part of this. I'm not introverted, and so they take a sabbatical and they do the NI.
I see. Very cool.
So that is the exploration, or that is a child function.
And what I want to start doing is I'm just going to encourage now those that are watching or listening to think about what their child function is and how that has manifested itself in their life.
Nice. All right. That's everything there.
All right. Thank you.
So, see you.